Are we? Oh, and now we're live. Okay. Hi guys, Dakota Natural Health Center, Dr. Stephanie. We have Kevin Oberlander, pharmacist here, and then we have Alicia. Kevin's joining us today for the Q&A because he has some really great clinical insight, especially from a pharmacy perspective, plus a lot of advanced training when it comes to compounded hormones, hormones in general, the endocrine system overall, and just a lot of experience in those areas. So he's going to help us out with some of the questions you guys have been posting. We do have, and I'm trying to follow it on another screen, I believe we're going to be able to see questions as you post them live, but we have a list that we're going to start with of questions that have been posted through the week. So go ahead and add questions as we go and we'll answer those. But I think we're going to start from the top on our list here and then pick up as more come through. Okay?
Sounds good.
So the first question we got was, what is the most accurate blood test to determine thyroid function? And I would say there isn't a single one. They all have to be considered in the context of what the other thyroid hormones are doing, and potentially hormones elsewhere too. What do you think?
Yeah, hormones are a symphony. If they're not all working in consortium, you have all sorts of receptor site issues. When I do a hormone consult, I break things down into 4 categories: sexual hormones, adrenal and stress hormones, thyroid, and then insulin. If you can fix or balance across that landscape, people generally feel better. But the most accurate blood test, I think, is probably the most complete when you're talking about thyroid. There's a lot going on there.
Good answer. I like it. Okay, so another question is, do normal levels vary from one person to the next? So we were just chatting about this, and I think we have an overwhelming yes. It's just like we've talked about the difference between fine or reference range normal and then optimal. And in the context of, like Kevin said, considering the other areas of the endocrine system as well, that there's a lot of individual differences, but there's a number of different things that need to be considered. Why don't most doctors test your whole thyroid panel? I'm going to hand this to you.
A lot of it has to do with insurance. They typically will pay for maybe a TSH and maybe a free T4. But you start looking into the free T3s and the reverse T3s and the TPOs, the Hashimoto's. Sometimes insurance companies do not pay for those, and I'm guessing, because I'm not a lab person, but I'm assuming that those can get somewhat expensive. Sometimes it's a standard of care. It's just how things have been done for years, so that's the way we do things. Not that it's wrong, it's just that sometimes when somebody's struggling and we are not seeing symptom resolution, then I think we just have to dig deeper. Mm-hmm. And then you just have to look at more things. And not even, and we're talking about thyroid, of course, but not even in just the thyroid panel, but in all hormones per se. So if you don't address your stress and your insulin and some of the others, then just looking at your thyroid panel doesn't always fix it either. So, it's a far-reaching thing, but a complete thyroid panel is going to tell you a lot more in that column for me, so to speak. Mm-hmm.
And TSH a lot of times is meant to be a screening test to give you an idea of whether you really should go further down that rabbit hole or not. The problem, though, again, is that those established reference ranges. So sometimes it's skipped over because it's normal on the reference range. But if you look into the data, into the medical literature, you'll see that if we pay more specific attention to tightening those reference ranges, we have a better clinical outcome. So that's sort of where that one comes from. This probably means sex hormones. Do sex hormone levels affect your thyroid?
Yes. All hormones affect each other.
Yes.
So if you have somebody who's hyperinsulinemic or whose diet is not good, you can have good thyroid numbers, but if you don't fix the insulin that interrupts the receptor site, you are not going to get a good outcome.
Mm-hmm. We were talking about that with progesterone too, progesterone being one of the primary female sex hormones. If progesterone is deficient, thyroid numbers can actually be normal, but you can experience a functional hypothyroid state because of poor stimulation of receptor sites.
That and the binding of the hormones. So if your estrogen, your receptors numbers are off, or your estrogen actually might be normal, but your progesterone's low, your body perceives that as an excessive estrogen profile,
Mm-hmm.
so it creates binding hormones to try to fix that. Estrogen is actually normal, so it finds other hormones. It can bind up your thyroid hormone. So you can have normal circulating thyroid hormone, but it doesn't get into the cells because it's bound up.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we want to look at things like free T4 and free T3. It's those hormones that are free to get into the cells. You can put gas in the tank in your car, but if your gas pump doesn't work, your car doesn't run. You can put thyroid hormone in your body, but if it doesn't get pumped into the cells, or the carburetor or the gas pump doesn't work, that thyroid hormone doesn't work either. So testing is not always the answer either, because you can have normal levels with problems.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Absolutely. Okay, this is for Kevin too. So somebody asked a question specifically about low-dose naltrexone and if low-dose naltrexone can be helpful for a person who has Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which again is an autoimmune condition that targets and attacks the thyroid gland. What do you think?
Well, I would say without any reservation that the potential is yes.
Mm-hmm.
Low-dose naltrexone, which is somewhat of a novel therapy, evidence-based, science-based. There's a lot of work being done throughout the world on low-dose naltrexone. One of my favorite books is called the LDN book. It's put out by a foundation in the United Kingdom. Basically, what low-dose naltrexone does is modulates your immune response. So by blocking, our body has opiate receptors. We tend to use opiate drugs at the opiate receptor. That's not what they're really for. They're part of our immune response. So if you block that, and somebody on an opiate should not take any naltrexone because you'll put them in withdrawal, which can be very uncomfortable. But if you block that opiate receptor with a very, very low dose of naltrexone, you actually create the body's need for more endorphins. Your body wants to create more endorphins, which are really good for us. Endorphins make us feel good. They're a big part of our immune system, and the more endorphins we create, the better response that we get at that immune site. So with Hashimoto's, which is typically an autoimmune thing, and I will say that people with Hashimoto's need to really look at their diet, but that low-dose naltrexone will really help clean up that endorphin receptor site so that you get a better autoimmune response. Mm. And we compound a lot of it. There are a few physicians in the community that are using it, and we see it more and more. And not just for Hashimoto's, but for lots of other medical conditions as well. Mm-hmm.
I think that it may be good to mention, too, that while there are some physicians that are using it, there are probably many more who aren't or aren't really familiar with it. So my guess would be you could either call and ask for Kevin and talk a little bit more about potentially some direction as for what type of clinical office to contact, or contact your doctor's office and see if that's something that they're familiar with if you want more information specifically about low-dose naltrexone for Hashimoto's. Let's see here. Can I still have symptoms even after I'm put on a medication? I think we could give this one to Alicia.
Yes, definitely.
Mm.
It's always changing. Like Kevin said, your diet affects it, so you can swing hyper, hypo. A lot of it depends on your lifestyle, your stress, your diet. If you need certain supplements that your body's not getting. So you definitely can have symptoms while you're still on a prescription medication. That's why they test your levels so often, to make sure you're in that range and that you're feeling well. So.
And remember the statement I said, you can put gas in the car, but if the fuel pump doesn't work, your engine doesn't run. You can put hormone in the body, if it doesn't get to a receptor site or pumped into the cells, it doesn't work.
Exactly.
And that's why your levels keep trying to increase your medication, and things don't get better.
Mm-hmm. Or sometimes they stop changing medications because as far as the numbers on the piece of paper go, everything is exactly where they want it to be, but you can still continue to have symptoms because it's not getting into the cells. Is it necessary to run all of these tests, or are certain tests for certain symptoms?
Depends. Certainly there can be a stepped approach to it, but as you work through those steps where TSH is addressed, medication's there, TSH is normalized, symptoms are still there, and it's a matter of why and digging deeper. Or you look at the whole panel. You know, you don't go to the Grand Canyon and look at the river. You go to the Grand Canyon and look at what's there. So with a lot of hormones, with cholesterol, why do we do a cholesterol panel when we just look at the total cholesterol? Well, we don't really do that anymore because we understand how important all of those, lipid profiles are important. Same thing with any other hormone. Thyroid is one of those. You just know more when you see more.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's perfect. Okay, so let me check over here and see. We do have a couple people who are watching right now. Awesome. If you have a question, now's the time to post it. We don't have anything else in front of us right now, so I'm trying to talk slow and drag this out a little bit, just so you have an opportunity to get that posted before we sign off. We will still continue. I don't know if we'll continue with videos in regards, about thyroid at this point, at least not in the kind of succession we have been. But if you catch this later and you do have another question, go ahead and post it, and we can either give you a verbal or a written response on your post, or do a quick video if we think that would better address what it is that you're asking. All right, I think we are good. Nothing else is coming up right now. Thank you all so much for participating in this week-long video series. I think we've been able to reach like 2,500 people or so, 2,000, 2,500 people with the video series we've done. So hopefully it's been valuable information. We've really enjoyed doing it. And keep an eye out for more. There's always more.
Thanks everybody.
Thank you.